Hi loves, it's Lacey and welcome to our space. So today we are going to be using some Dollar Tree beaded garlands to make some Easter DIYs. So let's get started. For DIY number one, we're going to be using some items from Dollar Tree and some wood. You can also use a sign from Dollar Tree and use the back of it for this project. This wood came from Home Depot. It has purple on it because it was 70% off in their clearance wood section. It's a great way to get real wood. I'm also using the beaded garland that came in the Easter sections that has the pinks and the blues. And I'm using some other Dollar Tree items, but I'm not going to show you which ones because I changed my mind on some of them. So first thing I did was I ended up sanding off a little of the purple, and now I'm lightly painting a mint color paint on top of my board. Once I've done that, I'm going to measure to the middle of my board, and I'm going to start attaching wood beads about 3 inches down from the top in the middle. I sped this footage up a little, but I am just taking one blue bead and putting it in the middle and then putting pink beads on either side, and then I will use the teal colored, kind of tealish green color to put on the sides of each of the pink. I know I just start doing the down part of the H in the sign before I put the other bead on the other side, but you will see that I am going to be following this pattern for the H in the hop sign. This is really easy, and you can do this with Gorilla hot glue like I'm using here with my Ryobi mini glue gun to ensure that these beads don't come off, especially if you decide to hang this like on your door. The sign that I'm making is going to be able to either sit up on a table or it can be hung on the door if you put a hanger on the back. So no one wants to sit here and watch me put on beads over and over, so I sped the footage up a little bit more, but as you can see, the H is in the middle. Now we're going to be creating a P down underneath, and I'm going to start that one about 1.5 inches from the bottom, because you can see that the H starts about 1.5 inches on the sides, and I'm just adding beads around to make a P, because we are only using the beads for the H and the P. Now I will tell you right now, I do change out some of these beads in the P because it did not look big enough when I did it this way, and the beads that were in the middle there were like too many of the blues and the greens instead of the pinks. So later on I do change it out. Now I'm going to take a styrofoam ball from Dollar Tree and I'm going to cut it in half with my Ryobi knife. It's really sharp. You can use any kind of knife to cut it in half, and just be really careful when you use a knife to do this. I'm going to take the side that cut more even so it laid flat, and I'm going to use one of the Dollar Tree dust mops that are in the cleaning section that you put a handle on it with. Then I'm going to cover the rounded side of our styrofoam ball. Make sure you're going to put the rounded side down because you want to be able to make this into like a little bunny tail. So I'm going to put a dab of hot glue underneath the rounded side, and I'm going to do this all the way around the edge and glue up that dust mop all the way around. Underneath that dust mop, you can see it's like more of a cloth and not so fuzzy, so it's easy to glue down, but I'm gonna hold it all the way up and put glue in the middle to make sure I get all of the fuzzy parts of it too glued down. You want to make sure that it's going to kind of lay flat on the back, and if it's not laying real flat for you when you get that all on, you can cut off some of the excess fuzz. So it takes quite a bit of hot glue. Be careful, don't burn your fingers, especially if you're using a high heat gun like I am. Then once I have it looking like the bunny tail, it's really fuzzy, so I'm going to take some scissors and I'm going to trim it up. I don't show you guys that, but this is what it looks like when it's trimmed up for me. You can leave it as fuzzy as you like, but it was just too much fuzz for me, so I just trimmed it down. Next, we're just going to take some more Gorilla Hot glue, and we're going to glue it in the center of our sign so it spells out hop with a bunny tail. I think this is really cute, and you can leave it just like that if you like it like that, but you guys all know I'm extra. So we're going to take a Dollar Tree microfiber cloth that is in the automotive section at Dollar Tree. They have them in a cream color and a white. I have the white here. I'm going to cut it in half and save half of it for another project, and then I'm going to cut down a little bit extra off of the half that was left and then cut that in half. Then I'm going to fold it at the top just so they're kind of even. They don't have to be even. And I'm going to cut down in like a circular point to the top. As you can see, I just cut the corner off kind of at a slant, so it points a little bit at the top. These don't have to be perfect. Now I am deciding which side, because one side's a little more fluffy and the other side is a little more flat. And I'm going to take some fabric that I have here that came from Walmart, I think. It's just little polka dots, and it matches the mint color that I used on the sign. And I'm going to cut that in half to be able to use that in the middle of what we're making. It's the ears for our sign. I took my Easy Press 2 from Cricut and I pressed it out. You can do that with an iron because mine was really wrinkly, but I want to show you that it was really easy to get the wrinkles out with that. And I'm going to place each one of these pieces in the middle where that point is. Then I'm going to take some floral wire. Now this is a little bit heavier duty floral wire than Dollar Tree sells, but Dollar Tree does sell floral wire just like this. If you only have the Dollar Tree, you can just double it up instead of just using one piece and twist them together and then make this shape. I'm putting a point at the top of it, and then I'm making them crisscross at the bottom so it makes sort of a ear shape for our bunny ears. So I'm straightening them out as best as I can because they have little ridges in it. And then I'm going to pull the bottom in on both sides, as you see here, and crisscross them. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to glue the green fabric down to our white microfiber fabric. And then I'm going to, after that is done on both sides, I'm going to glue down the actual wire to the green fabric. I'm not sure if I show that or not, but I just put a dab of glue on the top of it and a dab of glue where it crisscrosses. Then you can see that I'm trimming here the green so I can see exactly where the white starts, and I'm going to glue down the tip of the white to the tip of my floral wire, and then I'm going to just roll the pieces around the floral wire. It's really easy to do. Just be very, very careful. I have my spatula if it gets too hot, especially if you're using a high heat glue gun like I am, so you don't burn your fingers. And all I do is go from side to side and I roll it in and then glue it down. I roll it first so it has a little bend to it, and then I glue it down. If it doesn't glue all the way down, you can just add more hot glue underneath. But I only roll it to where the floral wire is, and then it starts to make the ear. You can make your shape of ear any kind of shape that you want. Like I wanted mine pointy on the end like this, but you can round yours off on the end if you like the more rounded looking bunny ear. And then when you get down to the bottom of it, and you'll see that here in a second, it does take me a minute to roll it all up. You are going to have thicker fabric because rolling it down like this gives you a thicker fabric. Make sure you keep it the thicker fabric when you get down to the bottom. And I know this has wrinkles in it, but it really will not make any difference when you see how we're going to put these on here. Just make sure that you do it nice and tight on both sides all the way down because you don't want it to unravel at all. Then when I get to the bottom, I'm going to put a dab of hot glue in between on the green part, on the green fabric part, and hold that. And then I'm going to put glue in between the two white parts and hold it together. Then I'm going to cut it off on the bottom to make sure it's straight across and flat. You're going to want that end to be flat. I did both of them here, and it doesn't make a difference if they're not exactly the same too, or the same height exactly. They can be a little bit off, so don't get a little crazy about it. I know I'm extra and I'm normally crazy about things like that, but you don't have to. Next, I'm going to bend one ear over really, really far and then the other one over just a little bit so you can see the fabric out the back because the ears need to go on backwards. If you put them on the other direction, that means your bunny's tail would be in the front of the bunny and not in the back of the bunny. So the ears need to go on backwards, and you see the fabric when the ears are bent over. And that means your bunny is facing away from you, if you understand what I mean. So next I'm taking just some cardstock, some white cardstock. You can use white poster board or anything you want. It's one piece, and I'm going to fold it over 4 times. I'm going to make the bunny feet, and how I'm doing that is I'm just cutting them into kind of an egg shape. I folded it over to get one in one direction, and then I just opened it up and cut the rest of it. So I have 4 pieces here, and I'm going to glue 2 pieces together because I'm using cardstock and not poster board, so it's really thin. Then I'm going to take a piece of that leftover microfiber cloth, and I'm going to cut off a section to cover each one of the bunny feet. Now I'm cutting off this little piece, and I always keep all my scraps because you never know what you're going to use it for. But I'm going to make sure I use the same size side of this microfiber cloth that I use for the ears. You'll see each cloth is a little bit different, and one side's more fuzzy than the other. So I'm making sure the more fuzzy side is on the outside. And I'm going to do the same thing to these feet that I did to the bunny tail. I'm going to glue them all the way around and make sure I pull it in tight. And I'm going to have excess fabric in the middle that I'm going to cut off so they'll sit down flatter. I make sure that I check on this. You saw I turned it over, and I don't glue it all down at once because I want it to be nice and flat on that side. So I do a little bit at a time to make sure it's nice and flat. Once you get it all covered on the back, you're going to cut off all that excess because you want these feet to sit nice and flat on here off to the side like that. Then I did both of them. I'm going to take some more of that polka dot fabric, and I'm going to make the pads to the bunny feet. You could do this in pink if you want it. You could use felt if you want it because they do have this mint color felt. I had some in the beginning that I was going to show you that I was going to use for these, and then I thought it'd be really cool to do the polka dot fabric instead. So now I'm cutting little small pads for the feet in the same egg shape, basically. I'm just making it a little bit more pointy at the top, and I'm only cutting 2 of these. They don't need to be glued together or anything to go down on the feet. You'll see that I put them on there and then I flip them over so they kind of sit a little bit better, because you're going to be placing some smaller ones on the top so it looks like the bottom of bunny feet. So I'm going to cut out smaller little ones here, and the first time I cut them out, I cut out like more of a circle instead of an oval. I thought I would use those, but I turn around and I cut out ovals after, because you'll see the circles just look too big. They look not like actual bunny feet pads, like the little toes, and so I recut them out. And I do 3 on each one of these. So I put those aside, and then I turn around and I cut out the actual oval shapes, a little more oval shape, and a little bit smaller in width and longer. Of course, because they're oval shapes. You guys know how I am. I'm so extra, and I get a little bit OCD over these kind of things. But once I get all of these cut out, and I do 3 for each one of them, I just glue them down with a little hot glue. Then I glue them down to my feet, and I glue the feet at the bottom a little bit tilted off to the side. Then I take the ribbon that was in the tassel that came with the beads. It's a gingham pink, and I just tie it into a little bow and put it in between the 2 ears. And this DIY is done. I love how it turned out. It's very spring-like, it's very Easter, and I think it's a fun DIY to go at this time of the year. So next we are going to be on to DIY number. Okay, for this DIY, we're going to be using 2 of the Dollar Tree hanging shelves and a couple of the beaded garlands. I also have some bunny print ribbon, 4 barbecue skewers. We're going to use 5 altogether, but 4 of these the same size. And I have 4 larger wooden beads. You don't need the larger beads. You can use just the ones on the garland, but I had these in my stash. So what I did is I took an extra barbecue skewer, not one of the 4, and I stuck the beads on it and stuck it down in the styrofoam ball, other half, and I'm painting it. I just found this an easy way to paint these beads. And I'm just putting a light coat on it. Then I also painted the tops of these shelves, whichever side you consider the top. I painted with the same color paint. And now I'm taking my Ryobi drill and I'm drilling bigger holes into these shelves so that the barbecue skewers fit through. Now, you need to have thicker skewers like the ones I have. They came from Dollar Tree. If you have really thin skewers, they may not work for this project. Then I'm going to take my hot glue gun, my Gorilla hot glue again, and I'm going to stick the pointy end of the skewer down into the bigger bead and let that dry. I'm going to push it all the way down to the bottom of the bead without sticking it to my table. And then that's how that is going to get done. It's going to be the little feet for our stand. Like I said, you don't need much bigger beads. You can use the ones you have, but I had these in my stash. Then I corralled all my beads inside of a garland so they wouldn't roll around. I found this was the best way to do this. And I'm going to put 3 beads on each skewer. I started with the blue, then the pink, then the teal. You can do any pattern you want. This is just the pattern that I decided to do. Once I have 4 on each skewer, I'm going to take the skewers and place them up through the bottom of my first shelf. You make sure you go through the bottom. I didn't paint the bottom of my shelves because you'll never see it, but make sure you go through the bottom and not the top if you paint your shelves. You don't have to paint them. If you don't, it won't make a difference which way you go. Then I'm going to set it up like this, and you can see it's turning into a stand. After that, I'm going to continue my same pattern. Like I said, you can do any pattern you like, and I'm going to put 9 beads on each one of the shelves. And please excuse my camera. The lighting kept changing outside and it decided it didn't want to focus all the time. It does clear up. I do apologize. So 9 beads following my pattern on here on each one of the skewers. Then I'm going to place the other shelf on and make sure that I put what I consider the top facing up, and then the bottom is unpainted on this one as well. You won't see it, so don't worry. You can do plain beads. You can do this kind of DIY for any time of the season, but I'm doing one for like Easter, and so that's why we have these colors. So after that, you're going to fill up your skewers all the way to the top. I do believe it's 6 beads. You're gonna have a little bit of the skewer coming out. I did paint the top of my skewers because I initially was going to put these little bunnies that I'm going to show you here. It is the ones off the garland on each one of the ends of the beads. But I remembered you guys might not have 4 sets of garland. I ended up using 6 sets of garland, actually 6.5 for all of these DIYs. So you may not have that many garlands, so you won't have these bunnies. So I changed my mind for that, and I am going to move on to that bunny part a little later. Right now, I'm going to show you that I took my ribbon and I am going to line it up with the top of the shelf evenly. The top of the ribbon to the top of the shelf. So you're going to have more ribbon hanging down under the shelf. That's why I said it's not going to matter if you don't paint the bottom or the sides of these shelves, because I'm covering it all the way around with the ribbon, and it's going to hang down from the bottom. Make sure it's even, or else it'll scrape when you put stuff on the shelves from the top. You don't want the ribbon to go above the edge. So I did both shelves like that, and now I'm going to take these 2 colors of pink, appleberry pink, because I did not have the color pink that was in the beads, and I'm going to try to match it to this bunny. I get really close. You really can't tell the difference. I just mix them until I get a match, and then I'm going to paint these styrofoam bunnies that came 8 in a pack at Dollar Tree, this color pink, and set them aside to dry. Once they're dried, I'm going to take some little tiny pom-poms I had in my stash. Dollar Tree does sell pom-poms. If they don't have them this small, you can take pom-poms and cut them in half and roll them up, or you can take little pieces of cotton balls really and do the same thing. Then I'm going to put a little glue on the top of my bead and the top of my skewer, and I'm going to glue down these bunnies. They're a little big, but I don't mind them. And the great thing about this is I'm gluing them to the beads, basically. So the beads are independent. They will still turn around. So you can face these bunnies any kind of way you want. I have the front 2 kind of facing each other, and as you can see the butts of the back too. They can be turned any kind of way you want on there. And I think it turned out really cute, but you don't have to put bunnies up there. You could put something else, or you can just leave it plain. So now on to DIY number 3. For this DIY, we're going to be using one of the new bell cloches that is in the gardening section at Dollar Tree, some more beaded garlands, and another bunny. I show you a styrofoam one here, but I actually switched that out to one of the clay ones. So I'm going to take off the little black pieces on the top of this cloche. It allows you to open and close the top for rain and for watering to get in. It just pulls off with a little washer underneath. And so I painted it the same pink. I actually paint the top and the bottom of it, and as you saw, I have one of the little clay bunnies that are for kids to paint, and I'm also going to be painting that the pink. So we're going to let those sit and dry for a second, and once they are dry, I'm going to take and put that little piece back on top. I'm not going to worry about the washer part that went underneath. I'm going to glue it down with hot glue. Sorry, I'm out of frame. But I set it down and twisted it on there so I make sure the holes stay covered. I'm doing this because I've decided to glue beads down all the way around that piece. I painted it pink because I didn't want any of the black to come through. I wasn't sure if it was going to bug me. You guys know I'm extra and a little OCD, so I made sure that I didn't want to see any black coming through there. So I cover the entire top with beads, and I don't worry about a pattern so much on the inside of it because we're going to be gluing our bunny down to the inside of this. So when you go to glue your bunny down, make sure you turn it over and glue the bunny part down to the beads because it is hollow, and if you just put glue down on the beads, you may miss getting the sides all the way. So next, I'm taking the cording from our hanging shelf from our last DIY, and I'm going to string beads on it in the same pattern. Then I put a dot of hot glue at the end of each bead so they wouldn't come off. I didn't show you guys that, but it's just a drop of hot glue on each side of the beads. And then I'm wrapping it around my cloche at the bottom. Then I'm going to take another drop of hot glue, I'll show you that here, and glue the beads to itself. I'm basically just making a necklace of beads. This will come right off of the cloche. I can lift it right off of the top of it, and you'll see that a little later here in the we're almost at the end of the video. You'll see that it will come right off of this cloche. So I found a little butterfly because you guys know how extra I am, and I always want a butterfly on things. It is one of the ones from Crafter's Square section. It comes 8 in a pack, and they're actually stickers. They're 3D stickers, so this is the top of one of the 3D stickers that I still had in my stash. I don't have any more. I would have showed you the packaging, but it's in the Crafter's Square section. Then I took all these little like berries that came on a pick of greenery that I had. I think it might have came from Walmart. I was trying to use all Dollar Tree products here, but I didn't have any that were this tiny in my possession, and I didn't want to have to go and purchase anything else, so I just used my Walmart ones to fill in spaces under the bunny because I wanted him to look like he was sitting in a little field of flowers and a butterfly landed on his head. So that is it for putting that all together. The next thing I do is I grab a Dollar Tree clear plate and I put my cloche on it, and basically that is the DIY. Look at how cute that turned out to be. A little bunny sitting in a field of flowers on top of this cloche. It is so Easter-like. But as you can see, I have this clear candlestick that I thrifted a couple of years ago from the thrift store for a couple bucks, and it makes it look like it's a perfect stand for this, and you can hardly tell it's a plastic cloche from Dollar Tree. But if you don't have a thrifted stand like that, Dollar Tree does have these white candlesticks, and you could glue that down to the clear plate and it's still as nice. And the perfect thing about this is the plate is food safe, so you can actually use this as a serving dish. I love how this DIY turned out. Even without the stand, it's really cute. I placed inside of this one some Dollar Tree florals and a little Dollar Tree bunny that they had a couple of years ago. I have the one that's standing up and the one that's laying down for this, and I think it turned out really super cute for Easter. I just love the little bunny on top, and then putting a bunny inside is really, really cute. But you can also do this with like a LED candle. I took one of the Dollar Tree pitberry garlands and just put that in there and put it back up on my candlestick, and that's just as lovely as well. But you guys know how extra I am. I had another cloche, and so I just took and put moss on that little ring instead. I didn't even have to glue it down, and put a little bit of florals on top of it, and it turned out really pretty. This is a Dollar Tree Gerber daisy with Dollar Tree little blue flowers, and of course I'm using one of my Dollar Tree die cut butterflies. I absolutely love these. I take two of them and I back them on each other and glue them down to each other, and then I take a piece of gold or silver depending on what you're doing, floral wire, stick it in the middle and curl the ends, and it looks like antennae. I already had this butterfly made, so I just added it to this cloche, and look how lovely this is also for spring, so you didn't have to do it for Easter. So here are all my projects. Tell me, comment down below, which one is your favorite? I have to say I absolutely love the hop sign. I think it turned out so cute, and I love the coloring of it. And then the other two are a close second. Even my other cloche that's not pictured here, I'm going to have out for spring. And yes, I have more than one Dollar Tree clear plate, so I'll probably be using that for some little serving things. But let me know down below, which one is your favorite? So that is it. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and always sharing my videos. And if you are not a subscriber here, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, become a subscriber, and hang out with us for a while. Also, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Lacee Space over there too, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye, loves.